You start with a fractal model, and then when you decide you want to zoom in, then it creates the data. But the data didn't exist before you
draw distance, like video game draw distance.
Absolutely. And as you decide to get closer, then it has to mathematically assign where that curve would be. So as you zoom in, it's creating more data based on the Mandelbrot set of living math.
Right.
So you could live in a situation where you didn't already have a 10 million megapixel picture, but as the days go by, you zoom in deeper and deeper, and it keeps developing itself.
Well, is there matter in things that exist only in a higher dimension? Is there matter there? Because how many of the lower dimensions are you skipping? Because the first one is point is the instance. So
that there's a lot of these higher elements that we've now created, but only exist for brief moments of time before they self-implode, collapse, or nuclear decay. So it would definitely be those sort of higher elements that would be existing or stable in these higher dimensions. And as Zertis brought up earlier, our visible light spectrum is just a very small amount out of the overall energy light wave spectrums, and that essentially these other dimensions could be existing within those wavelengths. It
doesn't even have to be so far out that we can't observe it. It could be as simple as that when we look at something like this, we're actually looking at excited particles that are part of a superstructure, because the state of matter isn't the same as matter. Matter just means that it's occupying space. It's taking up energy, and it's kind of containing energy in its existence. But it doesn't have to be compressed as ice. It doesn't have to be vaporous. It doesn't have to be plasmoidal. It could be spread out to some sort of super ether beyond anything that we've ever considered. And, that's kind of the Horton Hears a Who about it. That this could be part, and this is, what is it? The Men in Black cat necklace.
Nice. Great reference. On Orion's
belt. The mysteries on Orion's
what is
belt.
word?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's
Orion's belt.
That's
great reference.
Sorry, quickly just wanted to state it. Orion, the whole Orion constellation, for those that haven't looked at the topographical maps of Grand Canyon Pyramid Complex, they all perfectly align the tips of every peak in the Grand Canyon directly to all of the stars in the Orion constellation.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, I will look that up. That's cool. Because I know Robert Bouval was the first to break that idea for Egypt. And we've now seen star structures pop up all over Mesoamerica and those ancient structures. Now we're seeing it in the Grand Canyon too. Awesome.
Scientists confirmed the incredible existence of time reflections as requested to be brought up by, I just saw, where'd you say that? Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. It says, for more than 50 years, scientists theorized that an electromagnetic wave could be reflected temporarily, not just spatially. Yes. Scientists have been unable to confirm the existence of time reflection due to the amount of energy required to create a temporal interface until now. Using an engineered metamaterial. Why am I doing this? Doug.
Using an engineered metamaterial, scientists in New York City were able to successfully observe time reflections for the first time. The explanation of spatial reflections, whether by light or by sound, are pretty intuitive. Electromagnetic radiation in the form of light or sound waves hit a mirror or wall, respectively, and change course. This allows our eyes to see a reflection or echo, dolphin, of the original input. However, for more than 50 years, scientists have theorized that there's another kind of reflection in quantum mechanics known as time reflection.
Okay, now do it as a cheeky German.
The term might conjure up images of a nuclear-powered DeLorean, or in particular, police box, where I'd like to put you right now for suggesting this.
You are all on vacation.
Calm him down. I want like West Hamburg in the 80s.
Now do it Swedish.
Yeah. If you'd like me to do the Swedish, okay. When the entire medium in the whole and electric waves travels suddenly changes course, that causes a portion of the wave in reverse and its frequency transforms into another one.
Is there anything you can't do, man? That's what I want to know.
Keep throwing me another one. You can do from
Mike Tyson.
Because the time reflections require uniform variation across an entire
That one needs work. That one needs a little work.
I haven't listened to it in a little while. I gotta try it. I gotta try it out again. He's still young.
Good.
Thanks.
It's good. You can get there though.
I gotta warm up into it a little bit, okay? Don't mess with me. I'll bite your ear off.
That was good. That was better. I mean,
But
this
yes,
guy's got talent. He's
thanks,
the only
Australian.
talented one here.
So do you detect the reflected time before the experiment, or when are you checking for it? I don't get
How
it.
do you detect the reflected time? I don't know.
Does the time, how far, like, I don't know. I guess you have to read the whole thing, but I think some of these topics are so far like above
Crikey,
my,
there's a reflection in time.
over my head. This feels so over
That's
my
not a
head.
knife.
What does it mean to reflect time?
Yes, yes.
Right?
Awesome.
I
Yes.
agree.
Go from here.
Sean
We got to
Connery.
have Jeremiah on to explain
It's
that.
very difficult to change the properties of a medium quickly enough, uniformly, and with enough contrast in time to reflect electromagnetic signals, because they oscillate very fast. I'm not going to say his name, but a co-author and postdoc student at CUNYARSC said in a press statement, "Our idea was to avoid changing the properties of a host material and instead create a metamaterial in which additional elements can be abruptly added or subtracted through fast switches." Or
Morgan
lag.
Freeman.
We're gonna need
No, that one I can't do. That one.
Keep that one.
There is a time reflection.
great.
Yeah.
No, you can't actually. That's pretty close. Dude, ain't nothing
God,
you can't
Thank
do,
you.
man.
I love the rapid fire. That's a lot of fun. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
you're
super
great.
important.
That was
It's a
good.
pleasure.
So the time reflection also behaves differently than spatial reflections because the time echo reflects the last part of the signal first. The researchers say that if you looked in a time mirror, you would see your back instead of your face.
I don't get that at all.
I see what you're saying though. Yeah.
So you see the beginning of the signal being sent. Is that what's going on?
I understand that when they're detecting the signal bouncing back, they're seeing the end of it first, so they understand that it's a reflection, but I don't understand how your back is a reflection of your front.
It'd be like listening to a tape on rewind.
Unless that's a
Fast on
metaphor.
pitch.
If he's saying that you can literally make a time mirror and see your back in it, I don't understand that at all.
No,
I
he's
hope
using
it's
it as a
metaphorical.
metaphor, kind
Okay.
of
Well,
like the tape
it's like
rewind.
it's like an echo. Yeah.
It's a bad metaphor.
if time were a circle and you put a mirror at the beginning, you would then be able to catch the other side of the mirror and see the start point at which
Sure.
you put the mirror in. If
Which
you
would
know,
be your
Very
front,
cool.
but left, right, inverted.
you'd be going around and seeing your back
Oh, okay. I
because
don't
the
get
mirror,
it.
because it's circle.
I give up. I
mirror,
can't get it.
like, oh, what's back here? Oh, snap! Yeah,
I can't get
Hmm.
it.
that is a picture of. A
If it
mirror.
was a song, you'd hear the end first and it would go backwards, right? Am I understanding the general concept of this?
that is also an interesting way of describing that circuity, the beginning and an end of a song, putting it in reversed. I mean, these are fun things to think about, and fascinating that at least at this level they were able to describe the new way of understanding, or at least interacting with time, in such a way that it totally breaks down this linearity of what we at our base level experience are familiar with. In fact, what we are familiar with is not at all the way time actually is. We can look at the backside of our heads if we try hard enough in time.
It's pretty interesting, the idea that you could actually record what happened from the beginning, because then you would be able to play it back. I think is also the idea. So we talked earlier, or at some point, about femto technology, that you could print an entire moment. If you could record the moment the way it happened, this would be the way to capture all that data, so you could arrange particles the way you wanted them to be, to have a reset.
Right, like time is just it's multiple dimensional. It's like there's the linear time that we exist in this third dimensional realm, and then there's this higher full space time that is the past, future, and present all in one.
Time
I
is a
believe-
state of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma. Time. That's what I believe. I'm pretty convinced. Yeah, I think so.
The Tao of Frankie's posting a link to this Russian experiment, his spiral spinning mirror that supposedly compressed space-time. It's pretty fascinating stuff. But we should have Jeremiah on for that.
No worries. Gunwoo's back. What's up, Gunwoo? We were just looking at space-time, talking about the idea that maybe time is a state of matter, and then we looked at this article talking about being able to record time from and look at it from behind, basically. So you
Like
could
the possibility that time is a physical thing.
So that's my thought. I like the idea that time is an arrangement of matter, and that scientists demonstrate reflections of electromagnetic waves, so they can actually record a moment the way it starts, and then they can play it back, essentially, so they can see the beginning of that from the end.
Interesting. So that would mean that like time travel is possible.
I mean, kind of. Or that you could create that moment again, because you could create exactly the set of principled matter arrangements that set course to create this moment.
So
you
what's its
see the
relation
time.
to the ether?
So that's another question, right? So like if you then could seed ether somewhere else to have the same starting point, then you could create a moment in exactly the same way that you were living in. So you just copy that moment using new ether or a different part of the ether.
Right? Like it's higher dimensional, so it's almost too complex for the average third dimensional consciousness to comprehend. You kind of have to like get yourself out of body and connect to source to be able to fully comprehend.
Well, that's
what
a good
really is.
question though. Also,
Interstellar. I mean, what did you guys think about that depiction of the higher dimensions where time was kind of spread out a little bit? That I thought was a nice introduction to considering how time exists at other dimensional.
I like the concept that time is just instances, and it's the visual, the way they explained how he's choosing the instances with the kind of, MCF
in space. He was taking.
I didn't like that, but I understand they had to do something visual to
Didn't he
represent
have to go through a wormhole to get there, and then he ended up the end of the wormhole was like at his daughter's.
It's a black hole,
like behind a bookshelf or some weird shit.
Right, exactly. So that's their visual representation of. But that's my conception of time. Is it's not a time is not a, in my mind. It's not a physical.
So if a black hole takes something in and spits it out, it has to, by theory or law, then have to create a wormhole to spit you out the other side. So it's like our modern understanding of black holes claims it's this dense little piece of matter that sucks everything in and destroys it.
Yeah.
Where if it's actually spitting stuff out,
right.
Then it will have to have a wormhole in the center of it.
Yeah, no, only even Stephen Hawking's on his deathbed recanted his own black hole thing. That was his whole life's work. And he's like, oh, Disney had it right in the movie. You come in one end and go out the other. Like he switched it up on his deathbed and was like, I was wrong the whole time. Everyone else who guessed what a black hole is like a portal, they were right. It's probably that. But what I was saying is, however you represent it visually, like for a movie, is difficult. But that is my conception of time: is that time is a conscious experience of moving from instance to instance, exercising will, but that the instances all exist statically.
I feel like there's certain kinds of moments that are also more crazy, so you can connect them to more points. So, like, let's say you're an astronaut in some weird circumstance. There's probably fewer and then therefore more places that can jump off to, because it's just the likelihood of your choices limiting you that's kind of thrown out because now you're in this whole new circumstance. But also, that's what you think about. What do you think about ether? Because Gunwu, you brought that up, and I think it's interesting because we talked about the fourth state of matter, but ether is a state. It is not a state of matter. Ether is matter, right? Or how would you look at ether? What do you look at that?
Sorry, I just quickly want to say that plasma is the fourth state, and that ether would essentially be this fifth state, and it could be energy in matter.
You think? Yeah, I think it could be a state, or do you think it's kind of like in the idea that salt? There's water, fire, earth, air, and ether. It's a element. It's kind of itself.
Honestly, I can't elaborate because science is not my forte. I'm more of a history guy.
I mean, ether's not really. Scientists have rejected ether.
So it was an accepted scientific concept in the 20th century.
I think ether is electric pathways. Consciousness is electricity, and ether is the pathways that it travels on, and a lot of information can be like residue can be left in there from the future and from the past. So when your mind is free to move about the ether, you might discover, things that don't exist yet.
My only understanding of the ether comes from stolen history.
Hold on, wait. Gunwu, what do you say?
Oh, I was quickly saying that my understanding of ether only comes from the stolenhistory.org.
Well, I mean, when you say that, what do you think ether is then? Because it's not like a state of matter; it's its own kind of matter. It's the thing that fills up. We've replaced ether with maybe dark matter, or with the idea of a vacuum, right? In space, there's supposed to be nothing right now. There's supposed to be no ether, right? But I
feel like ether is an extension of the primordial ocean, and it's essentially what gravity is supposed to be.
Yeah, right. That's a good way of looking at it. And that ether would be like either absence of space-time existing simultaneously in this higher dimension that connects everything, or it would be like the fractal energy coming out of space-time into physical manifestation.
Ether's an interesting thing. I look at the Michelson-Morley experiment because so many people just say, okay, let's just throw away ether because of the Michelson-Morley experiment. Most scientists just point to this and say that's the reason that they don't look into it. But it's such a flawed experiment. And actually, if anything, it seems to prove that ether does exist and that we have difficulty detecting it, which also led to our study of dark matter.
Doesn't like hundredth monkey experiment like prove the existence of ether? Basically, that information is able to travel from consciousness to consciousness across, you know, great gaps of space without any vehicle or without any material to move across.
Can't you huff some ether? Isn't that pretty fun?
Wait,
feels so good for like 30 straight minutes after I huff my ether.
We know there is something like an ether because ideas exist in it. And we're able to retrieve
like
them
the whole
there.
concept of collective memory within like many animal groups.
Sure, like archaic records. Like to me, like all that stuff exists in the ether, and the ether is like I don't know if it's a material or not. I never even thought about it really as like an element or a state of matter, but that it's.
It seems like it kind of has to be because that's, I mean, connected to energy. Somehow it's connected to the idea of energy.
But there are things here that aren't connected to anything physical, you know. So
like
that's also a possibility.
The empirical scientific institutions are now entertaining the idea of blood memory. But like for the longest time, we've observed collective memory within animals, and this is like a scientific fact. But like to deny the ether is ridiculous in that case. If you know what you just said, like the collective consciousness does exist.
Well, ether could be in the blood for all we know. Like we don't know where it is or what it is. Maybe someone here does. I don't. But we know that it exists because we utilize it all the time.
If ether's in the blood, that would make it plasma, then wouldn't it?
That's funny. Blood is plasma. Yeah, true.
I mean, isn't ether just what they would refer to as space before, you know, modern science and all that shit?
Except that, you can't. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You can't reach into space and retrieve ideas. You know what I mean?
Right. So the Michelson-Morley experiment's interesting because if I can just figure out how to do it without destroying.
But you guys know the 100 monkey experiment, right? You guys know what I'm talking about because that's like super relevant to this. I assume everyone knows this one. Is like
right.
Where you bang 100 monkeys and hope you don't get AIDS.
Exactly.
All right, you guys get it.
So the Michelson-Morley experiment, they tried to prove that the light speed was changed through the ether. And so they said the results were negative. And so they said there was no significant difference between the speed of light and the direction of movement through the presumed ether. And therefore, it didn't exist. It was kind of their goal of saying this, because if you put light through water or through other materials, they're able to test for it. And so this is their way. This is, you know, it's kind of a silly test. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not the way that you really test for trying to figure out how ether does affect something, if it does exist. And you're not able to experience it because it's so friggin' far away, or it's all around you. So it's really confusing as a philosophical concept, let alone as a scientific object, right?
I mean, majority of scientific models based on empirical evidence is completely flawed. Mainly to enforce the industrial revolution and whatnot. I mean, concerning the fact that evolutionism is an adaptation or an emulation of transhumanism, transcendentalism combined due to the Origin of Species. So Charles Darwin wrote his book Origin of Species in Alice Bailey's house, which had heavy theosophic influences, which is where the whole idea of transcendentalism
at the same time that Blavatsky was going around doing a boat trip, looking at the same islands and birds.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
And like every other Neanderthal primitive human model, like the pit down man, has been like has come forward to be all forgeries and whatnot.
Well, and you even had Darwin himself saying, "Hey, listen, I kind of think you guys took my information and ran with it."
Yeah.
I was saying at the end of it, it's the ones that were most flexible and ready to like change with the environment that's going to keep on going. Y'all were doing survival of the fittest shit to fit your capitalists, whatever. Okay. I can't remember who the gentleman was. Gentleman is a nice term, that took his information and ran with it and warped it. How we understand Darwin now as evolution being the strongest will survive is not at all what Darwin was trying to get across in his original information.
They got similar to like Hegel and German idealism. They got Darwinism and turned into eugenics. I mean, but then again,
Yeah.
to be fair, within the book of Origin Species, the second title is literally the survival of the favored species.
Favored, but not
yeah,
best.
yeah.
But
But
so
you're
that's
right.
why
You're right. You're right.
simultaneously, or not simultaneously, but like 100 years later, you have Teilhard Chardin's phenomenon of man, and it goes into the idea of how selective conscious evolution is taking place through the choices that species and persons are making. And it's not just freak mutations or accidents, and that there's a lot of choice that's being made. And it's interesting because this is really where a lot of transhumanists pick up, because Julian Huxley presented this as the way towards the singularity, or towards the omega point. At the point they were calling it the omega point, but they were saying you can control your evolution, and that's been what's been going on. So in the 50s, particularly, the way we started looking at it was, okay, we're here, we're going forward. Let's use that to reflect where we've been and try to describe the past of evolution the way we're trying to move forward. And in the future, maybe things will be different. But in the 20th century, you have a lot of what do you call it? Economic chaos. Is there a good picture for this? You got people that are voting for the wrong reasons, marrying for the wrong reasons, not necessarily for love or for socioeconomic reasons, whatever the issue is. And so it's completely thrown off people making conscious decisions, because they're under the spell of having to make the decision that is best for them in the short-term cycle of fear. And so this provokes stick and carrot game, which is actually driving evolution, because it's deciding who can breed with each other or who can't breed at all, because they become involuntarily celibate, right? And so the entire world, or maybe they're told, you don't want to have a child until you're 30 or 40, or you never want to have a child, and then they realize later that they do. So all of these things are compelling the idiocracy or whatever is being developed through, social control. And that doesn't need to happen, because people could choose to be building what they want to see in the world through their families and what children that they create. But that's taken away, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, the large majority of people wouldn't be opting into steering evolution in the first place or understanding what you're talking about. So,
but that's all it is. Like, you pick someone to be with and you have a child, you're participating in biological progression of a species.
Absent-mindedly, though, not with that goal in end, right? But there are
but that's what's going on. People are not because people don't have that goal in end, because they have to have the goal in end of, I have to live in this town, I should, only be whatever it is. There's all these limits that we've found that are making that not the focus point of your existence.
Yeah,
but your focus point
of your existence is being a slave to a corporation.
Shouldn't it be? Yeah, you're transitioning between the life. You're transitioning the breath that was birthed into you into the world as you die. Like, you're inhaling and exhaling this giant life, and then
absolutely. But also, this is this whole realm is about choices and challenges. Time is about your choices and the ramifications of them. So, I mean, everything that exists here, animals are constantly competing with drama and not able to reach their full potential, just like humans are constantly limited by, the need for resources and the structure of society, so that we're not able on individual levels usually to be able to actualize our potential. But then you have people like the WEF people who were kind of like, we don't like them, like Noah Yuval Harari, who has been talking for years about Homo evolutus and how he's part of a class of people who are leaving behind Homo sapien to become Homo evolutus, where they're actively participating in the evolution of the species. So if you believe that was possible and you had the resources to do it, the question is, would you, or, would you opt out? And if you opted in, what would you do?
So I
Would
think
you
what
like to be
Andreas
a part of our evolutionary club today?
how do you avoid it? The only way you avoid it. So this is also interesting when you look at the celibacy of priesthoods and nuns, right? So you force these people after the second and third Council of Carthage. Now these conquered people, they're going to become nuns. So you make sure that none of them breed, or if they do, that all of the kids are bastards. So you can completely control the population. And similarly, force the men in that region who used to maybe be like imams, where your father and son are priests. It's part of the system. It's like that is for most other, the Orthodox, And so they're saying, no, here we're going to make sure that you can't. So it's been a major system to stop people from participating in the future. And that, maybe some people think that's great, but imagine, you've tons of people that used to be tribes, and all of a sudden they're not able to be part of the next generation. I mean, they're wiped out. That's a kind of ethnocide.
Yeah, that's like the whole concept behind the orphan trains and like destruction of monarchies leading up to the republic multiculturalism efforts that we're seeing now, where like you have all these people that, claiming to be descendants of royal families and whatnot, but they're just regular middle class people.
You know how I view it? These kinds of masters of the universe is like they're so into the game, but it is a game, and like you can get so into chess. You know what I mean? And become like a chess master, but outside the chessboard is a whole other bigger game of chess that you're ignoring. You know what I mean? So you can focus as hard as you want on steering human evolution, but there's a spiritual evolution that's been described for thousands of years that if you're focusing on the game, you're not even you're opting out of the actual, the all-encompassing game.
Yeah, why is Pink Trip laughing?
I don't know. I keep looking at Mr. Douglas and just I don't know why. It cracks me up, dude. What he sits there just looking kind of that. He doesn't make any expression. He just kind of looks down to the left.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel that sometimes the information we talk about, like on these streams, are so overwhelming. Just like
I was thinking about the coinage act because you brought it up earlier. Also,
yeah. 1857.
Well, this makes sense because if you think about how America conquered tribes, you had the 5 tribes and they took their wealth, and you have the Spanish as well, and they kind of consolidated their power. They started to completely control all of these tribes. And the whole point Andrew Jackson wanted to do was the Trail of Tears, right? You want to get all the native tribes territory because they were nomadic, and so once they left for the season, they would move in, they would build a bunch of things, and they would not be able to get their property back. So it was a major push to control all of the territory of the United States.
Also, the Coinage Act of 1857. So before America ran on a nationalized bank,
right?
And like they didn't have a standardized currency system because due to, I believe, Article 8 of the Constitution allowed every state to print their own currency. I could be misquoting, but
right. No, originally.
Yeah, and then like the pretty much the Coinage Act of 1857 completely nullified all of that. It's in favor of a standardized currency, which is the whole reason why these plantation owners revolted, because it nullified majority of their wealth, because the majority of their wealth reserves were in either foreign coinage or state
or local
currency.
State currencies.
Yeah, which the Coinage Act of 1857 completely nullified.
Right. So you had like thousands of dollars owed to you, which, at the time, thousands of dollars in the 17th century or 18th century was a lot. Just completely wiped out the former economy, which is crazy. Total reset.
And yet people believe the war was about slavery. It's like it's so funny. Like every war that America has been involved in was specifically for economic freedom.
Do you think Abraham Lincoln was a dictator?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, some of the stuff that he did. Yeah, all the Irish immigrants that came to America during this time, as soon as they set their foot, they were given an ultimatum whether they'd be deported or be conscripted into the Union Army, which is very inhumane in my perspective.
A lot of people think that was the beginning of the slippery slope of federal power getting out of control.
Yeah. For sure. Like
look where we are now, boys.
I think it was.
What about the Whiskey Rebellion, like 150 years before that?
George Washington Masonic hand! Look at that shit.
Right. The Pinkertons took over in the Lincoln campaign, and they arrested people who voted for other candidates than Lincoln. They said they were polluting the ballot box. We've talked about that. And he suspended habeas corpus. Yeah, he was a total dictator. But I don't know if he was the slippery slope. I think he was the culminating step, because at that point they usurped the former states into a federal government, right? So that at that point the United States was no longer the United States, it was America, right? It was the federal government of America.
It's also sort of like debating who knocked down the sandcastle or weakened the sandcastle, where it's like, why did we build a sandcastle and expect it to last a long time, which is kind of like our system of government and our Constitution.
Was Abraham Lincoln a homosexual? Nothing wrong with it, by the way.
He was married to a lady named Todd.
I've heard of it. Not the first time I heard.
His wife was named Todd.
He had private wrestling matches in his.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Just wondering if he was.
He was not the only president too that has been considered as such. I can't remember who the other one was, but
Obama.
High five, bro. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Boom. Very nice.
Yeah, the whole conspiracy that Michelle Obama is actually a transgender.
Yeah.
Right. That is just for the censors. That is the conspiracy on the internet. That weird TikTok.
But it is very convincing. Not
right. To some people. Right. Of course. Anyway, Cyrus T. Have you guys heard of Cyrus T? Do you know what I'm talking about? You know who this is?
Who is Cyrus T?
So where the Scientologists are at, where Ford was concerned with reincarnation and went to see Teed, Cyrus called himself Koresh.
So this is where Koresh comes from? Holy
Right.
shit.
Yeah. So Koresh is this idea that we're living inside of this kind of earth that's hollow, but we're looking out and we're actually on the crust on the outside, staring at space, which is at the core on the inside.
Did the Branch Davidians also, like, during the time of the Waco siege, they also believe this?
Yeah, I mean, so what's weird is this is actually far more common of an ancient tradition, and a lot of Polynesian faiths also have this idea. There's some shamans, the Quechua have an idea like this as well, that we're living on the inside, and it has to do with the firmament as well. You know, why we can't cross it. But then also some people have talked about with transhumanism or with simulation theory that you could have a higher resolution center, so it would be denser also as you go denser, which is what science likes to say. Okay, well, it must be the super dense black sun core at the center of our Earth, but then that would be all of space as well. So this was a religion that was very popular in the 19th century. In fact, lots of people moved to Florida from New York and around to join this hollow Earth cosmology.
So this is the start of Floridian occultism?
Well, that's a great question, because the thing about Floridian occultism is it just goes back forever. I mean,
yeah.
It's the stereotype about Florida. I mean, there's a couple. Don't get me wrong, but
I gotta get to Florida, man.
Yeah, I mean, the idea
great
that
vibes.
Florida is where Atlantis was, and there's a lot of these. We gotta get Dr. Longo at some point, and unfortunately, he doesn't easily have Wednesdays off.
The state of Florida is where Atlantis was.
Yeah, Atlantis,
I
Florida.
thought it was in the
reshot structure, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So he's got a lot of really good stuff. I wish I could find
Eye of the Sahara or whatever.
Like how there was multiple Jerusalems, I think there was multiple Atlantises. It's possible.
Yeah, there's
Free
tons of
migrations.
There's probably more things we've lost that have gone underwater than we could ever imagine.
So
Also,
there's these super. You like which one? Yandex? Yeah, I should get back on Yandex. But
Yandex, that's what those dirty Russians use.
Right, exactly. so now you've got.
Are you a Russian sympathizer? What do we got? Russian sympathizers in here?
We will talk about the Yandex this evening. Yes.
This is a stone anchor, and there's tons of these giant stone anchors. There's some like they equate with biblical history.
Oh wow!
In Florida?
They have them in Florida, right? So they find them in Turkey, right around the Mount Ararat. And then they also find them in Florida. There's a couple of places around the world where these super giant stone anchors are. And they've tried to say, okay, well, some of them, maybe there was a shellfish that just ate through the rock, because it's just so freaking big that it's hard to imagine how it's possible other than, looking at the history of Florida. There were these giant, the natives who lived in Florida were far taller than the conquistadors who arrived there by like a foot. And then they met giants. They had their own giants who were even like, there's like a 9-foot tall guy and like a 15-foot tall guy. So there's a lot of really large people that they met when they got to Florida. And then Florida is also connected to the, Ponce de Leon Fountain of Youth story. So they could find immortality there. So that's another reason that Ford was so interested in getting to Florida. So I don't know if you could say it was like the beginning of Florida cults, but it's definitely there, in the 19th century. It's like it was the first like utopia community cult to go to Florida. I'll give you that.
Very interesting. So it's like a crust, and we're with inverted Earth.
It's like Elysium.
So how are we not burnt up for the proximity of the sun?
Yeah, where's the sun in all this?
Yeah, they're itty bitty, man. They're just, I think it's inside of this space dome or something.
Just hanging out.
Close. I don't know. All these stars and some, like it looks like the lines that are going across. There's probably a few. Let me see if you can find the Koresh model. Koresh model. Let's see here.
I would be that guy in the crowd. Hey, Koresh, what about the sun? Hey, Koresh.
Yeah, this is gonna be a hard one to Google right here.
Koresh.
Definitely a watch list.
Koresh Hollow Earth, something like that.
There we go.
Okay, so you think there's the sun in the heavens, right?
So what's outside the crust? I wonder.
Right.
So that's kind of crazy. So if you go deeper, then you get out. So that also explains the idea that a lot of the extraterrestrials would be coming from under Earth subterranean dwellings, right?
You don't believe this, do you? Is this your new thing, Andreas? is this how you think everything really works?
I genuinely do believe that the planet is hollow, though, because every other planet in our solar system is hollow. If you look at thermal
definitely Hollow
imaging,
Earth. I'm
if you
fully
look at
Hollow Earth, but I
Are you
wonder,
full on Hollow Earth? Are you cavernous
on.
Earth? Are
I'm
you
not even
layers?
full on planets.
Shambhala?
like cavernous Earth, but some Shambhala.
iffy on
Yeah,
like
planet.
hollow Easter egg?
No, yeah, I'm
hollow?
definitely convinced of Shambhala as well. Like Garth
full
Shambhala
cavern
because of the whole Rorik
Shambhala.
expedition.
All right.
Have you
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about the Rorik expedition in your streams yet?
How do you spell that? No.
Roerich.
Rorik.
No, not
Rorik.
A. R-O.
What happened there?
R-O.
Rorik
Yeah.
expedition.
It's a good name.
All right, and then
Nicholas-
what happened? He went to
Yeah, so like
Was this
everybody
Russian dude? Oh yeah.
everybody is like memory hold about this topic. Like it's just like so like the whole film of Indiana
Yes.
Jones: The Last Crusade, like how the
Oh.
Nazis were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, that shit was real. Like so
Yeah.
the Nazis, the SS, and the United States and the Soviet Union had a race in the 30s, like an arms race in the 30s to find esoteric weapons, and nobody knows about this for some reason. But like so the Rourke expedition is like one of the strongest evidence we have of an inner Earth or Shambhala, mainly because it was like a presidentially sponsored expedition to find it, and apparently he did. And after his mission was successful, he came up with this thing called the Rorik Pact. So initially, people were trying to look. So the SS in the United States were trying to look for the super weapon mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita and trying to figure out its legitimacy. And so then the SS was in Tibet, but the Rorik group ended up in Inner Mongolia, so they ended up actually finding it. They come up with this thing called a Rorik Pact, telling the United States, "Hey, we need to make an agreement that we don't attack cultural sites in this upcoming war that they, premeditated." So this kind of ties into my own personal theory. It's pretty out there, but the fact is the idea that the nuclear weapons that we have today were reverse engineered from what Nicholas Rourke found in Shambhala. If you want like a too long didn't read version of this, I highly recommend watching Mr. Mythos' video on this, where he also describes the part where they were trying to look for nuclear weapons, or like whatever these super weapons were in Shambhala. But like the Shambhalis people, their lore specifically was to create this, or was to stay dormant until the end of days came, when the final war, the world of worlds, happened, so they can when they would come out from their dwelling and to actually defeat the Antichrist or something like that. Very syncretic to the Book of Revelations.
Right, and also but oppositional, because we're taught. Okay, so remind us, the Bible is telling that Titans have been kept underground for 1,000 years with Lucifer or something like that, and that they're evil, and that when they come out, they have to be defeated again. But here it is, we're trying to come out and defeat the Antichrist in 1,000 years. We're waiting 1,000 years, and then when we get out, we're supposed to be the good guys.
Right.
So it's two sides of the story there.
Good point.
I don't know.
It's like
the Spider-Man's pointing.
Yeah, information on this stuff is very few and far between. But it remains the only official presidentially sponsored expedition to actually find this place. Meaning our government cabinet found enough legitimacy to actually put money to find this place, which is the craziest thing to me.
CIA Shambhala library. Let me see if I can pull up anything there.
I don't know if this has anything else to do with well, John Quincy Adams was obsessed with Hollow Earth and was very interested in trying to figure out whether or not we could get there. He tried also to try and find a way to
That's so funny. I fully forgot that. Crazy. And the guy, so John Quincy Adams.
So many people throughout history before the 20th century believed in the Hollow Earth.
Well, but John Quincy Adams is an interesting point, because he traveled as a youth around Europe and the world, and he took trips to all of these places, and that was one of the reasons he was so fascinated by caverns and tunnels and things, because there's all these crazy tunnels off the coast, these crazy island tunnels especially. So he was, but yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you picked it up right where I was laying it down. That was perfect. He was very interested. He tried to get Congress, and I don't know if he did or not, but he tried to get Congress to fund an expedition to find hollow Earth through either Antarctica or the Arctic. I can't recall.
So to balance off on this whole idea of the whole John Quincy Adams being obsessed with caves, my whole like theory on evolution or like the, cave people were the fact that they hid in cave. Well, yeah, when the whole like flamenco catastrophe happened, people were forced to hide in caves and to restart humanity to this rudimentary primitive, this very primitive lifestyle. And
Level one, start again.
Yeah, the shit we're finding, like all these like arrowheads and whatnot, like are like remnants of that instead of actually being Neanderthals or whatever the hell we attribute it to.
It's funny. Robert Perry is a liar. Frederick Cook probably actually got to the North Pole, but maybe not. Probably only like 200 miles from it, or maybe like 50 to 80 miles from it, unless he actually reached it. So we've just been going with the, what's it called? The Explorers Club. There was like a point where Cook was having a party at the Explorers Club, and then Perry showed up at the party, and then people said, hey, you know what? It's cool that we're having a party for Cook and all this stuff, but we should talk more about Perry and how cool Perry is. And that like pissed off Cook. And then Perry went, and then he got up, took a fake photo of himself near Mount Denali, and then posted that to them and said, this is me at the North Pole, and convinced everybody, A, that he'd been to the tallest mountain in Alaska, Denali, which he hadn't, but then B, that he'd gone to the North Pole. And so everyone just sort of took it for granted and just believed it. And that's just never, who needed to go after that? So it's weird. We talk about the North Pole like it's just, okay, we've been there, done that. And now the North Pole is supposed to be, what's it called? Like the trade?
Off limits, basically, right?
They're about to open it in Alaska. So Antarctica is supposed to be closed, but the North Pole they're opening. They want to have.
Wait, they're actually opening it?
They want to do a Russian trade. So Russia's got all of this, and then so right through the North Pole, this would just be the most ideal trade network, and that's going to happen in the next 10 years, probably now. It was already supposed to happen if it weren't for all of this international disputing going on. But Brickus is going to do it. There's no way it's going to take more than 10 years, probably 3 to 5. We're going to start seeing, and already I think there are boats that are taking this trade route. What's it called again? The North Pole shipping route.
Santa Claus is going to be pissed.
On a side note, when you're looking this up, like I wanted to mention, this is we're talking about the Arctic, but I want to talk about Antarctica. I found out the whole reason why Hitler had infrastructure in Argentina is because Argentina is the sole authority to travel to Antarctica.
Correct, right. Well, not the sole authority, but so Antarctica, how do you see that? The map of countries, nations that control it. Here you go. So when you look at it, you've got Chile.
Other nations like have a stake in the Antarctic continent itself, but to travel to Antarctica itself, you need permission from the Argentinian government.
You got to go through Argentina.
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. I didn't think about that. Okay, that makes sense. If you want to get to Orcadas, if you want to get from Orcadas, if you get from
you have to go to the Argentinian government to have access to
Ushuaia. Is that what it's called? Ushuaia, I think, down in the south. So you go to Ushuaia, and then you can get to Victoria.
And that's the whole reason why the Nazis had infrastructure in Antarctica to begin with. They premeditated New Schwaben land and try to reach Hollow Earth through Vril Dominans and whatnot.
Have you guys heard of Giant Dick Earth?
No, what's Giant Dick? This new theory.
I'm not going to look it up.
The Earth is shaped like a giant dick. The Earth is shaped like a giant dick, and it's just coming its way through space. That's actually what creates gravity.
Wow.
The energy.
I think what you're talking about is panspermia.
The push off of the. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, how everything is Earth going to propel itself around the sun?
Makes sense.
It is pretty crazy when you look at Quincy Adams. I mean,
the stars are all the.
He literally was trying to get to the whole North Pole.
Shots.
And Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson stopped the expedition, right? And so there's this story about what's his name, Davy Crockett, that he went up to the North Pole because things were starting to slow down and things were getting colder. And so he had to go up there and he had to start the world again, started spinning like the Axis Mundi or the Yggdrasil, had to start whatever it is to get it moving again. And that's I find it interesting because it's not too far different in time when they were trying to say, okay, let's not do the expedition because it would be crazy. He thought.
Also, when I've read The Origin of Species, this is completely off topic too as well. When I read The Origin of Species, my whole understanding of the premise is if you control the environment, you get to pick and choose who lives and who prospers, which is essentially the premise of the Industrial Revolution.
Stefan has a brilliant comment. Vice spent all of their money on Exertus Hollow Earth featurette, which you got a good point. If you haven't seen that, you might as well, because I don't know, now that Vice TV is bankrupt. What is it? Hollow Earth Vice. If you go look that up on OdySee, hopefully
is this really your work?
Yeah, no, you didn't see this? Yeah,
I
so
didn't know about this.
So Vice produced this episode. They called and they said, "Do you believe in the Hollow Earth?" Or I forget how it happened, but like basically they said we want to do a special about the Hollow Earth, and it'd be really great if you would do it. And so they
you're featured in this?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
There he is.
I had no idea.
This is Andreas Curtis in the Hollow Earth.
Oh my
Wow.
I don't know why, but I believe in aliens all of a
I
sudden.
have to
I've gotta watch this.
I know you've never seen this. Yeah, it's pretty great. Look,
Wait,
that
what
picture.
year was this? I followed Vice very closely. I've never.
Did they know you worked at NASA?
Yeah, I think it comes up, and then also.
Wow.
Wait, was this
but they
last
avoided.
year?
They avoided talking about a lot of the stuff I had been doing other than this recently. I think because they were trying to make a show
Vice
that was like 12
early-
episodes, and that was one of the episodes. But
This is only 1 year ago?
Yeah, this isn't that long ago, right?
Dude,
I had
you
no
look, you look
idea.
much
Wait,
better
you never
now.
told me you were on
You've really
Vice?
gotten much more handsome in 1 year.
Once I left Tim Pools, I feel like I got healthier.
What was he feeding you there, bro?
You've seen the videos, right?
You
There
can't
were
talk
donut
about it.
hamburgers.
NDA.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah, I can say
NDA.
that, I think. God. But I mean, yeah, so they did that. I think I recommend it. So if you wanted to see that, you can go to OdySee and you type in
How
Hollow
come you never
Earth.
told me about this? That you were going to be on Vice.
I thought you guys knew. I don't know.
I would have popped in and be like, "What's that?"
Yeah. We got to
Yeah,
do
no,
a special we're all going to watch this next week. We're all coming back. We're going to do a special
wanted to
episode.
be on
Watch
Vice.
along.
We are going to deconstruct.
It was expensive. I mean, they flew us around.
Look
They
at that
took us
hat.
to a
Yeah.
cave. So we were gonna go to a cave, and then
Wait, who's the lady? Is that your
that was
mother?
my mom. Yeah,
Oh my
So-
god, that's your mom.
that whole thing. So we were supposed to go to this cave. We got there, like the government said that you can go as deep as you want, deeper than anyone's ever gone. And then there was this crazy fire at Shasta, right where all of the myths say the entrance to Hollow Earth is. So we had to divert, and we found this other place that actually seemed probably
Oh,
better.
how coincidental.
Well, I mean, it was crazy. It was the biggest fire that ever happened in Shasta, and they're like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to be allowed to go back there.
Yeah,
It was-
like I said, how coincidental. Like we have
Yeah.
all these like incidents of direct energy weapons being used all across the world, causing
Right.
mass fires and whatnot. Yeah.
And so the other weird thing is we were in Andreas and the Tartarian. and we had to find a way-
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, so they had like remote. We had a remote viewer. Julia was doing the remote viewing, and so that was the other weird thing. Was so she said we're supposed to go to this place. We get the place. We get the permits to go to the place that she remotes views, and then once they get the permits for it, and right after she does the remote viewing, she's like, I don't know, something weird. Like they are upset that we're coming. I don't know what she said exactly, but it was off camera to me. And then there was this crazy fire there, and I was like, well, okay, well that's at very least like director's commentary fan service. Like I can enjoy that. Like I don't know if anyone's gonna believe that woo, but for me that felt weird. I was like, why? And whether it was that Hollow Earth space demon aliens were blocking us from entering, or if a dew had hit
The
us,
Rothschilds.
or if it's just chaos. I think that's pretty brutal, right?
It's the Rothschilds. It always is.
Yeah, Bernie, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
I figured I should drop back in before you end it.
Yeah, no, I
Great
mean,
show today, by the way.
I still kind of stuck on that subject of the U.S. expedition to the Inner Earth Kingdom and just why we stopped it. And just, it seems like the Andrew Jackson comes up more and more as this like terrifying figure that's weirdly popular, but seems like a crazy psychopath.
Well,
And looks
why
like
was
every episode.
Admiral Byrd so popular and trusted and everything, and then claims he went into Inner Earth and all of a sudden went to a sane asylum? And what about the crazy UFO encounter over the White House literally after he came back from Operation High Jump?
Yeah, it's also interesting. Do you think that his idea is like the North Pole and the South Pole have similar entrances? I mean, do you think that that's true? Or I mean, they seem like they're different things, right?
Have you seen the Nazi map of Inner Earth?
Nazi map, inner.
There's a few.
I mainly go by that model because it's pretty much like the most detailed map that we have.
Where do I go to find the Nazi map, the inner Earth?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, you're looking at it, but like, there's so many like reposts out there that like it's. I mean, not that, but like.
One of them.
That's pretty neat looking though. I like whatever.
I don't know
you
about
found.
what this is, but like the
thing?
map is that. Yeah, pretty much.
Liberia. So isn't Liberia supposed to be like Africa or what?
Right, yeah.
So they have multiple maps. Like, let me try to find the original.
Yeah, look up SS or Third Reich or just German World War II inner Earth maps. That should come up.
Yeah, you need better keywords.
It's got Agartha definitely listed in it.
Mm-hmm. Liberia is one of the other continents that's supposedly in the Earth.
Oh, okay. So like the African one is New Liberia.
I guess so.
The more Koresh Teed stuff though. That's pretty good. Right
Oh
there.
yeah, look at that. The cosmos is inside, huh?
That's pretty interesting. I don't know,
It's a
man.
better usage of space than just putting a bunch of magma and iron inside, and then all of the sun and stars are all just.
One of these
millions
weeks, we're
miles
gonna
away.
get Mark really like gung ho on one of the theories. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, this one, yeah." And then, but then next week, he'll be like, "What? You guys don't believe that one anymore?"
What is Kataris?
Yeah, well,
First time I'm
I
hearing
can't
about
keep
this.
up.
What do you say? Qatar?
What is Kataris? What are we looking at here?
I wonder.
Oh, did you just randomly click
I
on this?
just want a pet dinosaur. If it's in inner Earth or outer Earth or cloned, I don't care. Just get me my little dino.
I believe there's a few
Taurus is
surviving in Africa. I have heard of encounters of as of recent as 2013 in
Yeah, they're
Africa.
called birds. Just get a bird.
It's of the Warlords comic.
I had pet parrots as a kid, and I
Thank you,
swear
Dr.
I
Gray.
encountered a thunderbird or petrodactyl or dragon or something insane flying over at 3:30 in the morning when I was in Drumheller, Alberta, where there's the world famous Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum. I was staying at a friend's place. I went out for a smoke. It flew by so fast. It was so high up. It blocked out the moon. I had my laser pointer on me. I tagged it with the laser pointer. It instantly like dove down. And even now, telling the story again, I get the shivers on my back because I was prey and that thing was freaking hunting me.
Whoa.
Wow.
I'm happy you survived. That's wild.
It could happen to anybody. What about these tunnels? I mean, so we look at Turkey and we see the world. It's this idea of these tunnels that we're in, and there's maybe it's a pathway to connect us to this much deeper, bigger. We say cavernous Earth. I'm thinking, yeah, probably bigger. Like there's a giant hollow space there, or something.
Multiple layers, multiple civilizations. Who knows, man? It's a party down there. We're not invited.
I had the original map downloaded at one point. So frustrating.
Oh, what's that book? That's cool.
Which one? This is Hollow Earth: A Long and Curious History of Imagining Strange Lands by David Standish. Looks good. Map of the interior world. There's also I don't know what this one is, but it does seem Scandinavian, right? Or is this not?
I think that's one of the German maps or like infos about it. A whole bunch of it came out after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Is it written in Greek? What is that language?
Yeah, I look Greek.
It looks like a matter and antimatter thing. Everything's reversed on one.
Although I see the runes too, so it looks like runes. It doesn't look like full Greek, but that's Greek. There's a lot of Greek symbols here.
Yeah.
Big owls are connected to alien abductions, or do big owls just abduct and eat people?
Giant owls were a problem at one point. Not recently, though. I don't know. Also, the volcano connection. I want to look more into that, just because it seems like Vesuvius and the idea of Hollow Earth. Maybe these volcanoes are somehow connected to the Hollow Earth theory, right? Like Dr. Evil.
I'm very much convinced that volcanoes are actually spoil tips. Because like I used to live next to a granite mine, and then like
Or what?
The spoil tips.
A what?
From mining.
For mining, yeah. The volcanoes are spoil tips. There is an actual
David Ewing Jr. did a whole episode about that with
multiple people have.
Exertus.
I believe Paul Cook as well.
He was saying the pyramids are spoil tips of mining. That's what it was.
Pyramids, no, but like spoil tips look more like
look at that, right?
Oh, you got to debate David Ewing Jr. now.
Explodes in the middle.
Yeah, no, I've personally talked to David Ewing Jr. on Facebook. We got off on the wrong foot immediately. He just goes off saying that I'm wrong about everything. He's like, dude, I'm like literally backing up his claims. I've read his books, but it's like, hey man, you need to do more research. Like, what do you mean? I've read your books.
Do your own research. Just kidding.
Basically. Well, but also this is, so you just sent me this. What is this?
Yeah,
The secret
yeah.
oh, these are the maps. Okay.
Yes, this is like something I found quickly on Yandex, but but
See,
which
so
is
the
why they're
answer
in
is use
Russian.
Yandex, right?
But these are like more higher resolution maps of like of what was uncovered after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Good job, Russian internet having actual data. Hey.
But one thing that I wanted to talk about earlier when we were talking about the ether, and like time being a physical matter. Have you heard about the skull experiments in the UK? The most well documented evidence that the people had. No, it's SCOLE.
Yeah, Charlie C is a part of official member of the skull experiments.
Really?
Now. Yeah, and he actually made a one of the devices that was supposedly.
Right.
Yo, the 7-point theory is so real, man.
Yeah, Charlie made the device, the communicator device that was supposedly given to the skull experiment group by the ghost of Benjamin. Whoever invented the light bulb.
I remember trying to I remember I watched this in high school, and then I was completely convinced of the ether. Like the fact that at one point in the documentary, like these ghosts or whatever, these apparitions literally summon old artifacts or personal belongings from the past in pristine condition. During one of these seance sessions, literally a newspaper from the 1930s or whatever just popped out of thin air. Definitely watch a documentary on it. I don't know what this image is, but I don't think this is a skull experiments at all.
Well, they have to make the seance, right? Like the group, the circle. That something about that circle, casting them spells, and Solomon's keys, like you guys were going over at the beginning. One of Solomon's keys has now been proven and recreated to be an actual LED circuit. So they are high advanced technology.
Do you know which one?
Jeremiah's gone over it a few times. I will have to rewatch and show, and we will have to definitely do an episode with Jeremiah who will go deep into explaining all of the higher dimensional anti-gravitic over unity and everything else with it.
Cool.
Oh man, I'm hyped.
Andreas,
but yeah, here's the full documentary to the skull experiments. I put it in the group chat.
What did you say, Mark?
I don't know, man. Just be careful with those Twitter DMs, bro.
Oh yeah,
you might not want to put that on the fucking stream, dude.
I never know.
Good thing I wasn't sending you messages about the Jews.
Why? You always say such nice things. Cyborg, the truth about human augmentation. We're at 2 hours. Let me just make sure that they know where they can find your stuff. BBDC.store. Because let's start with the real thing. You want to buy a shirt. You know it. You want to wear it. You want to look good. You want to get a Truther merch. Look at this sweatshirt. It's based right there. BBDC. And also the link tree. Go into the link tree and then you can get a lot of his music videos because he's got some pretty great music videos.
Thank you.
I like to aim it there.
Yep.
Dude, it's pretty based.
Pre-lockdown.
Yeah, I remember.
We're post-lockdown, so we can party again.
Nice. I've been partying, and the album's coming great. Almost done, really, and sent out tracks for live horns and for featured artists and stuff like that. So on track for this summer for a full-length album.
Pretty sweet. And then Mr. Douglas, go to Mr. with a 3, Douglas.com, and you can always look at this amazing picture, which always makes me happy, before clicking on Secrets of Power audiobook, which episode 1's here, but he just completed volume 2. So make sure you get into the vitalization of individual powers, Secrets of Power book 2. Awesome.
Both great reads, both wonderful foundations.
Do you feel more powerful after immersing yourself in?
You look more powerful.
Thank you. It's the jacket and the shirt. I had read these books a year or two ago before, and they had started, a really nice consolidation and shaping of a way of interacting with the world and myself that got rid of a lot of dross, that got rid of a lot of excess, that now I can question more clearly, take the information that I get and assimilate it in a way that I'm able to provide myself fuel to further question at a much more clear and straightforward manner. But the journey is the destination. Enjoy the questioning.
Based. What about Gunwoo? Do you have anything you want to share?
Not really. I'm sorry.
All right, everyone just don't even look at this man. And then Picture makes some amazing videos sometimes. I really liked Tucker Carlson audio leaks are amazing. It's pretty funny.
I gotta watch that.
That was a great video yesterday.
I hope Ping we're gonna do some more. We have to talk a bit about the fact that you can't tell if anything's deep faked anymore. Not just because technology is good.
I think I can tell. I think I still could tell.
What would you say? What are like? What's one really good thing to look out for? Like, okay, is this real or not?
The voice is very streamlined and like fast paced.
That was what Mark was pointing out. He's like, I can tell from the voice, the punctuation you're saying.
Yeah, it's not very human. It's very streamlined.
Yeah, well, like Tucker Carlson, everybody's saying it was a deep fake. I don't know about the video, but the audio is too good to be deep faked. And then
I think I could do the audio. What you need to do is you need to train it on several different sentences, so you have a different flow for every instance.
Well, yeah, what are the Tucker Carlson audio leaks? Like, what is this about?
Well, he said some funny things, and everyone's like, "Oh man!" He said, "Oh man, that woman
not get him a job at MSNBC is basically what's happening."
Why would he want to be on TV again? We could be on the internet. But I think he said, like, I would not call that man's wife a snack.
Dude, the best one is the first one. The best one is the very first one. If you go to the beginning of the video, I think it plays.
Thank you, Simon.
Let me pop it to be in here. Oh, come on.
The very beginning.
Play it. Play it.
Media matters for America. Go yourself.
See, that's what people think is.
Is this real?
Fake.
Well, he might have been like, okay, so what are we going to talk about tonight? And then he's like, you know what? Oh, hey, go F yourself is what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, and then the show starts and he's all calm.
But it's been recorded.
Because 20% of his job is taking Botox injections in the face, and the other 40% of his job is standing there with his face looking like, how could you be this liberal? I don't understand what you're saying right now.
If you really want to know what he was talking
he's
about,
squinting eyes in contempt, like that is like.
He was preemptively.
That's all it feels like.
The best part is the foppish laugh.
Yeah, that is the best part.
Hey,
I do like.
Wait. Hold on. He was preemptively calling out what? Say that. I'm sorry.
He was predicting that Media Matters was going to get a leak of him, so he was basically. He was predicting what really happened, and jumping the gun and telling Media Matters to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
You're gonna find this. You're gonna leak this. Here you go. That is
low key. I do believe it, right?
Because some chick was yummy or something. Somebody's girlfriend was yummy.
You know how like there has been like multiple bloopers of newscasters like doing stuff off camera, like before they knew the camera was on.
I mean, you like drink a bunch of coffee. You're gonna be on TV. Like they're gonna play a character. Like you gotta imagine they're kind of silly for a minute before the show.
Like our chats before we go live or after we're live, right?
You want to see what this guy's doing. No, I'm just kidding. What did you just send? You sent another video? Let me see this real quick.
Oh no, yeah, that's the whole that's the full documentary of the skull experiment.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll put a link to this so you guys can find it in the Discord.
Oh, nice.
And the Vice documentary that you were. Those are my two for this week.
All right,
I'm watching
Dude, don't go anywhere. The next Wednesday Ultra, we need to just watch that and react to it.
I don't think can you do that? I feel like they would sue. Like
if
TV.
we do commentary, you have to speak like
every.
You have to speak every 40 seconds.
We could try it. I don't know. Let's give it a shot.
I think you could if you were really good with not playing it too long, constantly interrupting it.
Yeah, have my lawyer and your lawyer get together and look at this. Let's give it a shot.
It has to be criticism though, so you're gonna be watching it like to criticize it or review.
Oh yeah, I think
would you have a stake in the IP though, because you're the one that's featured?
No.
No.
Here's the thing. I almost didn't want to do it because obviously they're gonna make me look crazy. It's a show about people who look crazy, but I figured, hey, I'm gonna be on TV and like. Why not? Plus, they're gonna fly you around and stuff. So, but the thing is, I also figured it's Vice, so we know that's evil. But I also figured Vice is so many levels away from itself now that it's owned by these other people that are running other people. They're hiring non-union people on Craigslist to do it. It's like so. It felt like, and I've said this before. I felt like Obi-Wan Kenobi walking into the Death Star, and nobody knew anybody or knew who I was. So it's not that hard to like sneak through because everyone's like, "What? Okay." I thought that they were gonna all be like, "Oh, Andreas, you did this or that, and we're gonna get you," But I think they were just kind of incoherent as a company and really nice, good people that they hired that weren't Vice that did all the work. Like all the people that were working there, they worked on movies like Black Panther and all this other stuff, and this was a job for them. It was cool.
What you
I
could
feel
do
like you should have
second
pulled
half.
Sam Hyde.
The second half of Woo, you can like move it over to OdySee or something and be like, "Hey, come
on."
Exactly.
Second half, we'll just continue the stream on OdySee, Rumble, and Twitch.
Have you seen the Sam Hyde iDubbbz documentary? Yeah, I feel like you should have done that with Vice.
I mean, the
Trolls
thought
me.
occurred to me.
Yes,
I've
look
met
the hell out of him.
sometimes, and Sam Hyde always makes it really hard for to work with him or for himself to work ever again. So it's always kind of it's like, but I do think he's brilliant. I'll admit it.
I love Sam Hyde.
Yeah,
I hate iDubbbz though. iDubbbz is yeah.
What a
that was a
man.
subject we were going to call this show. Is that Mark hates iDubbbz? All
Well,
right.
yeah, I just watched iDubbbz's reaction video to that him kicking that guy off the that stupid boxing tournament that he does.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so lame. It's a Yoko Ono situation going on. It's very obvious.
Make sure you guys watch Crypto Alchemist or else. All right.
Thank
I
you.
love you all.
Before
See you guys.
you end it, I quickly have to admit to one shady thing I did back in the day, and that was blocking
going on here, guys?
JG Organics and Joe Cool on your channel, Zertis, because of Beegs, and you should definitely unblock them because they are good people, and I'm sorry for that.
Who are
I don't
they?
know who
How
blocked
dare
them. They're
you?
the only people I did block, and you should unblock them, and shout out to them in the chat, as they are good people.
Everybody, sorry that this happened, and thank you for giving me layers of proxy responsibility. All right, well, help me fix it, mods. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much. Everyone,
Andreas is amazing.
Later.
Andreas,
you're also amazing. You're so amazing. I love you.
The following
yeah.
video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of Zertis or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.